What's up, everybody? It is Friday night, and I have released the Kraken. The Skeptical Help Bar is open once again, and I'm excited. We have a guest tonight, which is always good. That means my time talking is cut more than in half. So I love that kind of stuff. I'm going to go over the rules, and we're going to bring on our guest tonight. Hey, John, how you doing? Diane, how you doing? Make sure everyone signs off or sounds off, not signs off, stay on, sound off, and let me know what you're drinking. Hey, JD, John. All right, so let me bring up the rules here because we got to go over them every episode. So rule number 1 is you are welcome to ask any kind of paranormal related question or science question, whatever. And in return, I will give you my skeptical opinion, and our guest will certainly give his skeptical opinion because he's got a lot of them. So it's going to be fun. Number 2 is I don't know everything. None of us do. So we might have to say, I don't know, or we might have to say, I get back to you. And that's okay. I don't mind doing that. Number 3 is listen to Patrick Swayze and be nice. That's it. This is a friendly discussion kind of show. We get together, we have a few drinks, we talk about weird shit, and we just go from there. Just don't be a dick. That's all. Rule number 4 is if you have a question for me and or the guest, please do us a favor and put a Q in front of it. And that helps me and producer Donna, who is off to the side here.
Hello.
Pick out the questions and get them up on screen. And then rule number 5, the most important rule of the night, drink up. All right. So I'm going to switch to my guest frame here. And I'm going to bring on my friend, James Underdown. What's up, buddy?
Hi, Kenny. What's happening?
Oh, man, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. We missed a whole year of conferences and all kinds of stuff. What happened?
know. I don't know. There was this little thing about this cold or flu or thing that kept us apart. So, yeah. So for people that don't know who you are, right off the bat, can you just give a little self-description?
Yeah, well, my job is the executive director of the Center for Inquiry West. That's in Los Angeles. And I'm the chair and founder of this group called the Independent, actually now the Center for Inquiry Investigations Group. We used to be the Independent Investigations Group.
Nice.
Center for Inquiry Investigations Group currently has the world's largest prize for anyone who can prove paranormal ability under scientific testing conditions. That prize is 250,000 smackaroonies.
Kenny, come on. We got to come up with something.
Don't you dare apply.
Come on. You know I can do it.
You know what? Sometimes I read that because I honestly, and this is the main subject of the show tonight is going to be talking about this challenge because I've been pimping it out a lot. I recently got addicted to TikTok.
Yes.
So I've been on there doing videos and I came across someone playing with dowsing rods. And I mean, the video that I came across, they were trying to talk to ghosts. And I did reply videos just explaining like, this is what's going on. If you watch the wrist, you can see them rotating and this and that. And I received hundreds and hundreds of comments saying, well, they don't talk to ghosts, but they definitely find water underground. They find minerals. And I was like, I don't think so. I know this has been tested and it doesn't work. And so I got thousands of comments coming back. And that's when it really started, where I started sharing the link. I don't know how many times I pasted that link for your challenge in all the videos, because I kept telling people, hey, if you know for sure, and you know how people are, they're confident in their superpowers. If you know for sure, here's the challenge. This is 250 grand. So by all means, please. And I get $5,000 too if I refer you. So
that's right. You get the referral fee. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I'm going to answer John's question. I am drinking Guinness Stout. tonight.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Nectar of the gods.
Oh, he's going to be feeling good by the end of the show.
You only need one of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've tested dowsers. It's usually a pretty easy test. Usually people say they can douse. I mean, a lot of people douse for water professionally.
Right.
And, the dowsers who make money at that is most likely to be for water. But other people have said they can douse for precious metals.
Mm-hmm.
There are medical dowsers. You can use the alleged technology for all sorts of things. But,
right.
When we put them to the test, which is usually just a matter of putting 10 or 15 boxes out in a parking lot and putting a gallon of water under one of them, which they are absolutely, like you said, confident they can do, then you got to do it 3 or 4 times in a row, or however, we'll run the probability for it.
Right.
But you're not going to get it just out of luck. And no one's been able to do it in 21 years of my doing this.
It's really interesting. I mean, I was surprised how many professionals, and I'm not going to use air quotes because there are professional like construction workers and people that work in plumbing and stuff like that were commenting, just saying it does work. It definitely works. And I've done it this way. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not saying you're lying or anything like that. I'm saying if you really think it works, here's where you can go. You can make a lot of money off of this.
Yeah, I did a piece for NBC News with Robert Mondavi. Now, for all you drinkers out there, especially wine drinkers, yes, that's one of the Mondavi wine family up in Northern California. And this Mondavi has made, I don't know if he's still doing it, but he used to charge $500 a pop to find water. Now, I don't know if this was exclusively in Napa Valley, but I went to a geologist and said, hey, what's the odds of finding water in a place like Napa Valley? And he said, it's a valley. All the water goes into the middle. You can't miss.
Yeah.
It would be much more difficult to not find water than it would be. So that's why people say, yeah, it works, because they might have had what they thought was some success. But, listen, most of the United States, I'm told, if you drill not even that far down, you'll hit some kind of water.
Right. Right. And I mean, I had a lot of conversations with people saying that they doused for wells and they were able to find a well and drill down and boom, they found it. And my argument was, do you really think that the source of water is only like 2 feet wide and it just goes straight down? No, It's a huge area that you're drilling into. It's a huge cavity. So yeah, like you can go into almost a football field and anywhere you'll dig, you'll find water. So again, I've been pimping out your challenge a lot. Yeah. So, I'm actually just going for the $5,000. So,
well, if you do it often enough, you might hit it one of these times. That's why the test, by the way, is a 2-part test.
Right.
We start out with what's called the preliminary demonstration. And when odds can be assigned to whatever you're trying to do, which is not always, when odds can be assigned, we shoot for like 5,000 to 1 on the preliminary demonstration. And if you pass that, then you got to hit on 1,000,000 to 1 odds. So we don't want people just getting lucky like you would with a scratch card. We want to see some real ability.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning, because I don't know if everyone is aware of the challenge. I've been following you guys for years, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But for those that don't know about it, can you tell us how it started, how it got its beginning?
Yeah, as most people who know anything about the skeptical world can imagine, it's based on the James Randi $1 Million Challenge. So of course, we look to someone like Randy, who had been doing it for decades before we got started, or a decade anyway, and so modeled it after that. We started my group in 2000, and our initial challenge, because no one was sponsoring us or anything, was money out of our pockets. It started out at $5,000 and then $10,000. And so, in 2000, we started doing testing pretty soon after we started the group, knowing all along that we had people like, I had James Randi on my Rolodex and Joe Nickel on my Rolodex. Rolodex people is a paper contact list.
I had one of those.
Yeah. I actually probably never did have a Rolodex, but it was a book that had names in it. So we had all these people that if we painted ourselves into a corner and weren't sure exactly how to test something or weren't sure what to watch out for, because we spend a pretty fair amount of time, what I call brainstorming the cheats, to make sure that someone's not going to show up with some kind of gimmick that maybe we don't know about, and try to win the money through nefarious means.
Right. And I've seen that. Like, I've seen the planning that goes into this, because cheating is definitely, that's a major factor. And when you're talking about that much money, yeah, you gotta cover your ass like never before, I'm sure.
Certainly you have to expect it. And we probably overthink everything. And I say that because, all right, so we've been testing people for 21 years now. And out of the many dozens of tests and many dozens of investigations we've done over the years, we've not caught a single person trying to cheat us, not one. So 100% of the people show up actually thinking that they have this paranormal ability and fully expecting to show us up and walk out of the room with a check. So,
wow. Okay.
And so, it's kind of surprising, but
that's amazing though. That I'm actually amazed that you've never caught anyone cheating. Like that says something. That really says something about the people applying.
Yeah, it does say something about the people applying, and I try to make that clear to people that these aren't bullshitters who are coming trying to scam us. These are people who really believe what they say. So there's no lying or subterfuge or anything like that. Now, awesome. Audra asks a good question about what's the closest anyone has come to winning. First of all, I'll say that no one has ever passed the preliminary demonstration.
Okay.
Secondly, the closest person even to pass a preliminary demonstration was one of our people, John Suarez, who was sitting in during a rehearsal. So, some of these tests are rather elaborate, and we have to, make sure everybody knows what their job is and what the timing is. And, so we were doing a rehearsal, and John Suarez, who's an MD and a psychiatrist and a valuable member of our team for a long time, sits in the position of the claimant, of the applicant. And he starts guessing, and he gets like the first 3 out of 5 really hard guess. I mean, it's like in the hundreds to 1 against that he wouldn't be able to do this on chance alone. And I stopped the rehearsal and like, John, all right, what's going on here? You don't have time for this foolishness. You're cheating. And he said, no, I'm really not. Let's keep going. Let's see what happens. And of course, he missed like the next 8 in a row.
Okay.
But for a brief moment there, Suarez was the best psychic we had ever seen.
I love that. One of your own is the one that almost passed.
You backbiter, you better not be cheating me.
I love it. Oh, that's a good question. How many people attempt this challenge each year or overall?
Yeah, let me frame this in slightly different terms. So all of last year during COVID, in the year 2020, we received something like 75 applications for the $250,000 prize. This year, since this woman from a website called 10 did a piece on us, and it went all over the world. And so since February of this year, last year was 75 total. Since February of this year, we've had 130 in whatever that is, 2 months, 3 months. So we get something like 100 applications for every test we do. I think last year we ended up doing 3 or 4 official tests because it actually takes quite a bit of staff power to figure out exactly what people are saying. I'm sure you run into this sometimes too. Sometimes people they say they can do everything. They make all kinds of claims. And so we have to narrow them down into exactly what they can do, how that might be tested, what would be considered we help them along with some of the stuff. We tell them what would be considered a successful result. But the tests they're not at all subjective. You either hit the number, you either do the thing or you don't. It's not like a judgment call like Olympic gymnastics or something like that. It's very obvious whether they pass or not. So a handful a year is the real answer of tests we do.
Okay. I did see the stats because you have it on the site that stats for 2020 were 75 people applied, 4 were tested, 4 failed, and 71 people withdrew. So what happens when they withdraw?
Yeah, either we can't come to terms, either they stop talking to us for some reason, they get pissed for some reason, like, sometimes, or a lot of it is they can't come to us, or they won't abide by a simple set of rules that we insist on. Like, you have to do it in front of us one way or another. You can't just say, I was in a haunted house once and I saw this ghost and I took a picture, give me my $250,000.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. You got to produce this ghost or alien or whatever in front of us. So, there's just, as you know, there's just too many ways that you can manipulate other evidence that we just can't take photographs and all this other stuff.
Oh, what about mediums like Teresa Caputo? Oh my God!
Yeah, my favorite. We've done 2 major investigations of 2 other TV psychic mediums, John Edward and James Van Prague. At one point, both had nationally syndicated shows, and we were in the audience at both of those, recording the show as it was happening, and then going back or recording the show live in studio, and then going back and seeing what aired later on, and more importantly, seeing what was cut. And so, they have the luxury because they go out and talk to people. So they do these remotes with people, and you don't know how long they're sitting in front of a person. They might do a cold reading for an hour in the person's house, and then they come back and they edit it and they do an 8-minute segment. Well, during that hour of cold reading, they're not showing all the horrendous mistakes and misses that they do. They're cherry picking and getting a few things right. Now, we did find out a few things about mediums who do phone calls, and Caputo and all those people do this stuff too. They use their fame to charge big bucks for doing on the phone readings. So, they're sitting there in their BVDs talking to these people and charging sometimes $1,000. I got a full hour recording of someone that I actually know who got suckered into that before I could tell her not to. And she paid $1,000. Tragic story. Her husband died at a young age not that long ago. And she was desperate to, be in touch with this guy. Totally understandable emotion on her part. But so she does this reading, and I got the recording of the reading, and I analyzed the reading question by question, statement by statement, and found out that she had made um, hundreds of guesses in this. It was actually like 56 in a 56-minute reading. So she's guessing hundreds of things. So you're just bound to hit some stuff on hundreds of guesses.
Right.
And by the way, try doing that. Try sitting there and guess, just keep on talking for 55 straight minutes and make guess after guess after guess. It was like, I can't remember what it was, 7 or 8 guesses a minute or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then she asked a couple of hundred questions, and then the other people talked a little bit. So by the time you get to the end of it, she made all these guesses. Some of a very small percentage of them were right. A few of them were right on. Most of them were wrong. And she got them talking, and she stretched out and got through the whole hour and made $1,000.
Wow.
Oh, sad.
My wife and I keep talking about, like, if we were just a little bit dishonest, we'd be on Easy Street. It's so easy, because I've done this. I did a presentation with Rob Palmer, and we did a presentation together about psychics. And in the middle of my part, I did a hot reading on them. They didn't know, they didn't expect it. It wasn't part of it. I just started doing a psychic reading on them. And the people involved had no idea that all the information I was coming up with was on their website, in their bios. And I just highlighted stuff, and I had the papers in front of me. I literally read it off a page, but stunned them. I mean, and this was a whole room of skeptics, but they were still amazed. And it's just shows how easy it is that we can be fooled. How easy you're not looking for it.
Yeah, and it's the easiest time in the history of the world to do a hot read right now. Because most people have some kind of online presence and give away way more than they think. You look in the backgrounds of pictures, and you've done this with your investigations.
Yes.
Just a photograph in a street sign or a make of car,
Yeah.
There's an amazing amount you could find out. So if the psychic wants to, really hit the ball out of the park, you could do the hot read. But most of them, in my experience, are too lazy to do that, because most people who are willing to pay that amount of money will totally fall for the cold read,
right,
which is its own set of skills. It's not easy to do, but it's still convincing to people and keeps them coming back.
Okay. Well, we got JD. Hey, JD. Do you think people who know damn well they're faking it and don't have any powers stay far away from your test because they know they'll get caught? I would think so.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that partially, maybe that completely explains why no one has ever tried to cheat us in person. Because when we tell them, okay, this is what the test is going to look like, and we're going to wand you with an airport metal detector, you're going to be in another room, like these telepathy tests. We're going to shut the curtains, you can't make any sounds, you can't tap your feet, on and on and on. When the cheaters find out that this is the way it's going to work, someone walking in with a lame ass magic trick is going to go packing.
Right.
And that might be part of the reason why 71 of last year's applicants went home, because they're like, well, screw this, it's not going to work.
Bob had a question up here that's really good. Oh, there you go. What types of people are on your team? In other words, what are the backgrounds and who are the people? That's good, Bob. Because that was one of my questions.
Yeah, that's and this is one of the beautiful things about the Center for Inquiry Investigations Group, and one of the reasons why I started it as a group, not as me as an individual, because I thought, some of these people who are coming to CFI and are just walking around our hallways have all these fantastic abilities and smarts in areas I couldn't begin to scratch the surface in. The first test we ever did, I was still, before I went full time with CFI, I was doing some construction work with this guy in Los Angeles. And I was under somebody's house, and we were doing some wiring or something. And I came up and I found this little vertebra. And I thought, holy Moses, it's John Wayne Gacy West Coast edition. And I found one of the bodies. So I looked at it, and it looked like a human vertebrae to me. And I brought it into the group the next day. And Sherry Andrews, who was on one of our charter members, the first meeting ever, is an archaeologist. And I showed her this, and I said, what do you make of this? Is it human? Is it, what part of the human body is it from? And she goes, no, that's a dolphin. And I was like, you knew it that fast? And she said, oh yeah, we see this all the time in digs. You could tell by this little process that goes over the top here. And I've dug up hundreds of these things. So case closed. I don't have to go to the FBI. I don't have to do anything. But no one else had that bit of information. And we've got cops and psychologists and engineers and Hollywood industry people and lawyers. It's just fantastic. It's amazing the skeptical firepower we have in one room.
So how long does it take, I guess on average, because I'm assuming that each test is a different amount, but how long on average does it take to plan out a test?
Yeah, I'd say it's usually in the months when all is said and done. By the time they fill out the online application and we get everything nailed down, and for the ones who are able to show up, or some of this stuff is testable on online, Zoom, Skype, whatever.
Okay.
It still takes a lot of hammering back and forth. We have a team that we call the first responders. Each first responder is assigned to an applicant as they come in. So, when they get sort of late into the process, the first responders are on their own until it's time to start designing a protocol for the test. Then I need to see it, and some of the more experienced people in the group need to see it. And we've been doing this long enough that it's pretty rare that we see something that we haven't already tested. So it's kind of plug and play. We know how to test telekinetics. We know how to test telepaths. We know how to test dowsers. And so it's pretty easy to come up with some of the stuff. But some of these people are doing sort of one-of-a-kind things. There was a woman from your neck of the woods, Philadelphia, who said that she could make me pee in my pants. So I was like, we're going right for the money. There's no preliminary tests like this because, by the way, I'm going to take a leak 10 minutes before we do this test. And, take your best shot. And I understand that she came all the way to Los Angeles and was in a Starbucks down the street and then changed her mind. I think God or somebody told her not to go through with it. Wow. She was probably wishing that I was at the Starbucks drinking coffee. But,
yeah.
So she never showed up. She flew all the way out here and didn't even show up.
Wow.
But, so some of the tests are real simple and straightforward, and we can say, yeah, just come in. You say you can move, and I've heard this more than once from different people. You say that you have the powers of telekinesis, and you can move an SUV with your mind. So, okay, beautiful. We got a parking lot. We're gonna put some blue tape around the tires, and all you got to do is move the car out of the blue tape, and you win.
Wow.
It's going to be in park, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try that. Sure.
So I guess let's see. What's what kind of claims can you? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not even looking. Oh, geez. Producer Donna has a question. You can actually just ask.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Is this your full-time job?
The executive director of the Center for Inquiry is my full-time job, and this is part of my job. Yeah. The Center for Inquiry itself subsumed the Independent Investigations Group in like 2017 or something. Right. So we're officially part of the Center for Inquiry now.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, here we have a few more.
Okay. How are tests funded? General contributions, grants, applicant fees, or volunteer?
We don't charge any. We don't charge any fees to apply. Boy, that's tempting. But especially after the 130 came in, we could at least buy ourselves some pizza or something.
Yeah.
Right. But no, the Center for Inquiry has underwritten this prize money. Okay. So the $250,000 is a designated part of the endowment that the Center for Inquiry has.
Wow.
And yes, everybody else is a volunteer. I'm the only one who gets paid.
Okay. And when applicants apply, getting out to the center for the testing, that's all at their own expense, right?
100%. Yeah. Applicants they have to pay 100% of their own expenses. And with some of the tests, that's more than just getting themselves there and room and lodging and food and all that stuff.
Right.
We did a test with a woman originally born in Sweden who said that she could look into the human body and see if you were missing a kidney or not.
Okay.
So, okay, cool. We probably shouldn't have said cool so fast because it turned out to be an extremely difficult test to arrange for, because not only do we have to find people who are missing kidneys, which ain't so easy. You know, what do? Stand on the street corner?
Right.
You know, are you missing a kidney? Anybody? So, you know, you can't just go into hospitals and nephrology wards asking for people.
Right. Yeah.
So it was hard to find enough people just missing a kidney. But also we found out in the course of our extensive research of this test that most people who are missing kidneys, a clear majority who are missing kidneys, are missing their left kidney. And that is because people who donate kidneys, which is not completely uncommon, people who donate kidneys most often donate their left kidney. And that's because your liver is on the other side and the vasculature, it's just easy to get your left kidney out. So now, not only are we looking for people who are missing a kidney, we want them to be missing their right kidney because she probably knows about that left kidney thing.
Right.
So then we had to find all sorts of volunteers to be the both kidney people. And this is what got me thinking about this, to prove whether the person was missing a kidney or not after the fact, we had to hire a technician and an ultrasound machine, which cost $750 to deliver and take back from CFI. So she had to pay her plane ticket not from Sweden. She was living in I think North Carolina at the time. She had to pay all her flight, room, and board, the tech, and the ultrasound ahead of time.
Wow.
So it was expensive as hell. It took 35 volunteers and the better part of a day. It was quite extraordinary.
Wow. And what was the result?
Oh, yeah, she failed.
Wow.
Did I forget to mention that? She actually got one right, which it turned out was not that hard statistically.
Okay.
We were playing with some much easier odds than we normally do.
Right.
But yeah, she only got one right, and she had to get all three guesses right.
Okay. Wow. All right, Bob, has anyone ever applied for the test, realized they couldn't pull it off, and then asked to join your team? Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a
yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't think anyone's actually decided to join. We have had a few people who have walked out of there after failing saying, geez, I really need to rethink this a little bit. Most of them don't. Most of them accept the results, go home, and then start blogging 2 days later saying how we cheated them. But
On
a
that
few
note,
of them, yeah.
On that note, though, like you guys, according to your website, and well, talking to you over the years, you guys agree on protocols, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they sign the actual protocol saying what the steps are, what you have to do, what the protections are going to be, and what your score has to be. All that is mapped out well in advance. They sign it. And 2 seconds before we start the test, I ask them a simple question. I ask everybody the same question. Is there any reason you will not be able to perform your ability here today? And 100% of them say, yep, I'm ready to go. Get your check writing hand warmed up because you're going to prepare to be amazed. So, you know, they think it's going to happen up until the last second.
Awesome. I can confirm because I have been at least part of preliminary stuff, and I've seen the agreements, so I know that it's all written out. It's all approved by both parties, so it's not like they're going in blind. Like they're going in like, oh, I didn't know this was a protocol, or I didn't know this was going to be a restriction. They know and they sign it beforehand. So
Yeah.
it's they're which amazes me when you say like, oh, like 2 days later, and I've seen it. I've seen the results of this where it's like 2 or 3 days later, they are, blogging the shit out of it saying, you guys are wrong. You cheated. You changed the rules. You did this. It's amazing. It's amazing the justification that goes on.
And that's why we videotape everything. You know, we try to hit it from a few different angles. If they say we were doing something, we actually set up the cameras in a way that establishes continuity between everything that's happening, so that somewhere there's usually a no-cut video where someone can watch this from the beginning to the end and see that no hanky-panky was done at any point.
And that's entertaining. I did put the link in the chat a while back, but for the investigations, I've watched, I think, all of your videos of the investigations, because it's just fascinating to see what goes in to everyone. It's not just like, hey, let's just throw this together on a weekend. It's like you said, it's months of planning, and you can see everyone's like, did we cover that? Did we dot that I? Did we cross that T? Make sure, because it's a lot of money.
Oh yeah, and we do a debriefing after every test. We sit around after the applicant is gone, and we say, did we screw anything up? Was there anything we could have done better? We try to learn from every experience. So, we've made a few mistakes over the years. I'm not going to mention what those are, but we do. We try to refine the process as we go.
Okay. So I know who these people are, but the question is, the great Randy had a major beef with, I believe, the amazing Kreskin. Has Kreskin applied for your prize?
Kreskin has not. Isn't Kreskin dead?
Is he? Let me look it up here real quick. I got it. It doesn't look like there's a death date, at least not on his Wikipedia page.
We'll talk to Susan about that.
I mean, I'll ask Susan.
Yeah,
sure.
Maybe not. I mean, for all I know, no. I mean, he's not applied to us. Kreskin's a magician. He's a mentalist. He's, right. We know magicians and mentalists, and some of our members are amateur magicians and mentalists. And then we know people. I mean, there's people like Banachek we can go to, and Richard Wiseman and Jamie Ian Swiss, and there's all sorts of Mark Edward. There's all sorts of people I can call and say, someone's doing what I think is a mentalist trick.
Right.
What should I be watching out for? It rarely even gets to that point, because we know enough about how these tricks, at least generally how they're done, that, we won't let the people shuffle the cards or something. We're not going to let them do something that any magician would know they need to have access to the cards or touch or whatever the gimmick is. We know a fair amount of that stuff. Not saying we can't be burned. I mean, there's always people, coming up with new gimmicks and magic shows all the time. Penn and Teller and Copperfield and all these guys, they're always looking for new and creative ways of fooling the public. So, but I luckily our applicants seem to be a little bit behind the curve. The famous last words, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Dave, buddy Dave, one of my the fellow co-host of another podcast that I take part in. If someone was able to pass the test and win the $250,000, would you consider that proof the phenomenon exists? Would you consider it scientific proof?
That's a good question because
that's good. Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, I lean pretty heavily toward the naturalistic world reality side of things, of beliefs. So if we lost both a preliminary and a final test, my first thought would be, how did they burn us? My first through 15th thought would be, how did they burn us? I guess, it's possible that we don't know about something that's out there. But Randy had been doing these tests for a couple of decades at least. We've been doing it for a couple of decades. So there's probably 30 years of $1 million+ available to anyone in the world who really had this ability. I think that's part of the reason why we offer this money, because if a lot of the believers say, "Oh, I don't do this for money," or "I'm not in it for the money. It would be spiritually bad for me to take money for this." But you could give that money to a children's cancer ward, or you could do anything. You could be a good person with that money. So the fact that no one's ever passed all these years, I think, says quite a bit about whether this stuff is at all possible. So that's a long way of saying that it's probably not possible. And my initial thoughts would be, they figured out a way to beat us in a way that we didn't figure out, and that's probably what happened.
Okay. I mean, I'd probably go the same route. It would make me think. I think that's the best answer I can give. It would make me think, like, all right, all these people were involved with all of this background knowledge, and they covered every single base that we could think of. And I know you guys overthink the shit out of this test, so because I've seen it, and I do too. I mean, I'm constantly overthinking whenever I go to test somebody, but if they get through it, I think it would make me pause. Not full on believer right away. I mean, that's just not. I'm not going to flip a switch, but it would make me pause and say, "All right, what happened here? What caused this? Let me. I need to look deeper into it."
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I think I would be kind of excited. I don't know if it would be a good excitement or a bad excitement, but
well, you lost $250,000.
Well, I was going to say, if someone just passed the first part,
right?
Someone passed the 5,000 to 1 test, which again, I mean, people win the lottery, and it's in the hundreds of millions to 1. So this stuff happens, but so 5,000 to 1 isn't that out of the question to happen on luck alone. But I think that would light a little fire under us, and we would be like, was that just someone, being extremely lucky, or is there a big hole in our thinking that we need to sew up to sweep?
It would be interesting. It would be really interesting. I think, to me, I would devote a lot of time to that. Like, let's go over it and see if we can find something. And that's just my nature. That's just I need to figure out what's going on. but I'll leave it at that. What?
I have a question. So,
Sure.
The first part of the test, if they pass the first part, is the second part done at the same time?
No, we get a break and we get to sit down and figure out what the hell just happened.
Okay.
And that's the whole purpose of it, because I mean, Ray Hyman, one of the founding fathers of modern skepticism, when we first started doing this test, his first question was, if enough people keep applying for this, someone's going to hit it just on luck alone. The odds insist on it. So that was part of the reason why we do a 2-part test. And I think Randy did something similar.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's now, I mean, it's 5 billion to 1 odds against that you can't be lucky and pass this test. So, I think odds wise, we're fairly safe for both of them. But yeah, if someone got the first one right, we get to kind of look this over and reanalyze a little bit what could have gone wrong.
Yeah. Because, I mean, at least for me, it's more, it would be, let's review the video. Let's see, all right, if we can spot something. Because you don't always spot it the first time. And, I mean, I know, and I'm sure, Donna, you know, when I watch a video or I listen to audio, it's over and over and over and over again. Because what am I missing? What did I not hear the first 40 times? Let me go through it. And I think it's important that you need to take a break in order to study what was done, how the technique was. Because even when we watch like Penn and Teller's Fool Us, we try to figure out what's going on. And you're not going to get it on the first pass. You're hardly ever. I mean, you're pretty lucky once in a while.
For rewind.
But yeah, I mean, we go back and forth, and then little details start popping out. It's like, oh, wait, I see that right there. Let's look at that. And then it builds. So, I mean, I think that's perfectly fair that you take a break between the tests, because you need to evaluate what's going on.
Yeah. And sometimes like I don't know if you watch for this with Penn and Teller, but I watch for it when I'm watching a magician operate. I don't even want to know if I want to say usually, but there's often some sort of slightly unnatural bit of business that they do.
Yeah.
And that's where the action happens. Like you'll see magicians, sometimes they hold their hands in an odd way, or they have a way of moving sometimes that a normal person does not. And that's in order to conceal what they're up to.
Okay. So Jeremy's question here, I think we might have touched on this before.
Earlier.
Yeah, but he was asking what fraction of people who try to beat you are true believers versus they know they're full of shit. I'm sorry, paraphrasing, nonsense.
Yeah. 100% of the ones who have been tested are true believers, we think. Some of the investigations, and this is an interesting question too, for people who look into psychics and mediums and people like that. I always reserve a small percentage of people who claim to be psychics or mediums. It's possible to be doing that stuff and actually believe you're doing it and not intentionally deceiving someone, because there may be no difference between a cold reading and just a thought popping into your head that you think might be true about a person.
Right.
So I'm slow to call someone a fraud who is claiming to be a psychic or a medium. I would say probably a lot of them are, maybe most of them, maybe a vast majority of them are frauds, but it's not necessarily all of them. It's possible to actually believe you have this ability, since some abilities, the dowsing is one of them. That's a perfect example. If you douse and they sink a well and it's water, you're not a fraud. You just think you did it.
Right.
So Yeah, it's a lot of people actually think they're doing it honestly, and they don't understand the mechanism of what's happening.
I see a lot of that with both dowsers and psychics, where because I'm friends with a lot of people that make those claims, and we get along good. And I see that they really believe what they claim to do, and I think it comes from reinforcement from friends and family. You know, you make a prediction, or not necessarily a prediction, but you look at somebody, you know someone, you give advice, and it turns out to be good advice, and it starts going the way of, hey, maybe you're psychic, maybe you have an ability, especially when they're in like the paranormal community.
Right.
You know, that circle has that kind of reinforcement. Where I mean, I've done cold readings, and thanks to like Mark Edward. I mean, Mark Edward, I've learned a lot from him about cold readings and hot readings. But you throw out a few things there, and they're like, "Wow, you know what? You have a special ability," and I'm going, "Yeah, I'm faking it, and I'm getting pretty good at it, but it's not real." But when I turn it back onto them, it's they genuinely they look around, they're confused when you start pointing out, well, you know, I did say this earlier, or you asked me this many questions during our reading. You know, when you ask me 30 questions in a 15-minute session, you're not talking to anybody, you're not getting predictions, you're asking me questions. I'm telling you the answers.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, if you're able to listen to the person or see the person face to face, you can make lots of judgments about where they're from, their education level, what sort of how they're dressed,
right?
All sorts of different things. And you know that everything you learn about the person, however you learn those things, ups your chances of getting your guesses right. Not to mention the fact that there's some things you could say that applies to just about anyone. You know, there was a health concern. You had some love life problems in high school, and you know, it was a up and down period for you, and you have some money concerns and blah blah blah. Yeah, of course. And even more specific things. One of the early ones I learned that was a surprise, but is a great gimmick when you look at it in retrospect, is telling a woman you have a piece of jewelry from it's either a mother or a grandmother figure. I'm not saying it's someone above you, and this language gives them a little bit of leeway too. Someone above you, either a mother or grandmother, you have a piece of jewelry from there. Apparently, this is an extremely common thing. Women get pieces of jewelry from their mothers and grandmothers all the time. Yep. But that sounds, and they'll say, "Oh my God, how did you know about my ring?" They didn't know about your ring. You just told them about the ring. But it sounded like it, you know.
Do I have it? I'm looking. There's a book called Passages, which is a book. As soon as I mentioned it, I mentioned it a couple times on the show. And as soon as I had mentioned it, I think I had Susan Gerbic on. And you heard Mark Edward in the background going, "That's the Bible. That is the Bible of psychics," because it tells you every stage of life and what goes on, what you're thinking, and hand-me-down, everything. And I learned it from that book. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's natural, especially females, to have something from their mother or grandmother, but mostly from their mother, some kind of jewelry, something that's on them. And it's a good guess. It's a safe bet in the psychic world.
Names are another thing. We saw this a couple of times in studio. I think it was James Van Prague. He walks over. Okay, so there's 200 people in the audience, ballpark figure. And he walks over to this group, and they're skewing a little older. They're the youngest woman there is in her 50s, and the oldest may be in her 70s or something. And he comes over and he says, "Who's Helen?" or something like that. And I smiled to myself, and I thought, you know, you didn't ask who Courtney or Ashley was.
Right.
You know, you asked who Helen was.
Yeah.
That's a name people named girls 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't say which one of you is Brittany, which one of you 70-year-olds is Brittany. They're always asking about Mary or,
Yeah.
So they're the little subtle things like that is, are great techniques that continue to impress the uninitiated.
Awesome. This is actually a good question too. I'm curious about this. How many applicants have had mental breakdowns when they fall or they fail? I'm sorry, or write to thank you.
Yeah. We don't get a lot of thank yous.
What? I am surprised at that.
Shocking. I know it's shocking. As far as mental breakdowns, I was going to say, I think a lot of them have the breakdown before they get to us.
Okay.
And that's actually kind of true. I mean, we do see a fair amount of mental illness. People who are hearing voices and feel like you can hear what they're thinking or they can hear what you're thinking. Those are classic symptoms of schizophrenia. And it's one of the reasons why we ask people how old they are and when they first started having their ability, they first started noticing their ability. So, yeah, they don't break down. And by the way, I try to be really nice to people. I know they're disappointed. Some of them have come from great distances to fail in front of the group like this, and it's humiliating. And I try to be gentle with them and as compassionate as I can muster, and let them down as easily as we can. I want them to understand why they're having these experiences.
Right.
I don't want them to leave pissed. I want them to leave enlightened.
So how do you, this brings up a good question. How do you deal with applicants that you suspect have more of a mental illness rather than a potential superpower?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a little bit of a problem because sometimes, and again, we've had a number of shrinks on our team before, so this isn't my wild guess saying this. People who have exhibited clear signs of mental illness. The first answer is being mentally ill does not preclude you from applying for the money. It seemed to us unfair to say you have this disease or any other kind of disease, so we won't test you. That being said, when it's really obvious like that, we try to hint at that this is what might be happening with you, and we want you to test yourself at home.
Okay.
And this, we can use language like this sounds like a symptom that people who are experiencing schizophrenia would experience. Sometimes I come right out and ask people, are you under any mental health care at this point, or have you ever been institutionalized? I was shy about asking that before, but it turns out people are pretty open about it and are happy to answer it. I even got an applicant who called us from a mental health facility in Northern California once. And I said, sometimes when a person's brain isn't working right, you may experience things just like what you're telling us. So why don't you do this? Talk to your doctor about, what do you think is happening? Mention that you want to take this test. And if your doctor at the facility gives us a green light and we get a note from him, then you can come and be tested.
That's good. That's good. Cool. All right. We are going to take our commercial break. So we have a 2-minute and 22-second break. So if you need to refill your beer or empty a bladder, this is the time to do it. And I will meet you back here in just about 2.5 minutes and we'll pick up with the questions. Sound good?
Fabulous.
All right. See you back in 2.5 minutes. Here we go.
Hey everyone, this is my store. Hey everyone, this is my store, based on the theme of science and skepticism. It's here that you can find all kinds of shirts and hoodies, yoga pants, tote bags, the fanny packs I know you guys love, masks and pillows, all with science and skepticism as the theme. I even have hoodies for your pets. That's right, your dog or cat can wear one of these things. I also have a general store that sells more inspirational quotes or, drinking stuff, because I like that kind of thing. I also have a store set up for our Three Tortured Souls podcast, which we do Saturday nights. You can find shirts and Tim Vicker's favorite drinking vessel, the mug. I also have a store tailored a little bit more towards my ghost hunting friends, Paranormal by I Am Kenny Biddle. These are shirts and quotes that are a little bit more on the ghost hunting side, especially this one, Translucent Perished Beings. Ghosts. That's my favorite. So if you're interested, head on over to teespring.com/stores/scientific skepticism by IAKB and check it out. Thanks.
Are you tortured by what you see and hear about the paranormal field? Join us as we critically examine and question paranormal claims, science, ghosts, demons, cryptids, UFOs, ghost hunting technology, and much more are all on the table for discussion. Three Tortured Souls is a video podcast that streams live on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 Pacific. Three Tortured Souls.
Yeah, I did actually. Magically, look what reappeared.
I love that kind of glass.
Two.
Yes.
I have a question going back for a while. I missed it.
All right. I know the CFI has been addressing COVID and misinformation and anti-vax things. How is that going?
Yeah, I mean, we do what we can and try to provide information about dispelling myths and that sort of thing.
Right.
We don't really have the resources to be too proactive about it beyond getting the information out there and telling people that here's some good information.
Right.
But I mean, the anti-vaxxer thing has been a burr under our saddle for a long time now.
Right.
I mean, this dates back to Andrew Wakefield and all this crap about autism being caused by vaccinations, which is totally wrong.
Yeah.
So, it's not, I mean, all this stuff, the spread of bad information is as old as human beings, and we just have to keep up with the methods and debunk the latest BS.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I've been doing a lot. I mean, I've had a lot of personal conversations with people whenever I hear it. And luckily I have people that do reach out to me because I am involved with you guys and I do keep up with the latest information. So when they reach out, we can have a one-on-one conversation. It's like, look, these are the facts. Here's where I can support the facts. It's not just hearsay. It's not just me giving my opinion as fact. Here's what it is, and go from there. So we're both vaccinated. We got our shots already. We're fully vaccinated. So we're
Connor, yep.
Yeah, and our son. So we're good to go.
Yeah, I mean we're lucky because we have this pool of talent that's, I mean, Dr. Offit, who's been on ABC News has spoken at our conferences and stuff. So,
Yeah.
Our short list of experts on this is at the highest level.
Dr. Offit actually works in the hospital
yeah.
next to me. So I've actually seen him once or twice.
He's on the news all the time.
So yeah, he's in Philly here. I've come across him, and it's nice. One time I came across him, I'm like, hey, Dr. Offit, I saw your because he did a presentation at CFIIG.
Yeah.
He did a lunchtime presentation, and I mentioned it, and I was like, I enjoyed it. I was there. He's like, oh, good. And we're talking, and the coworkers I was with were like, what the hell is going on? How do you know him? What are you talking about? So that's always fun. So Bob has a question here, and this is a good question. How did you come up with the $250,000 figure? Why not start with less? Which you did, actually.
Yeah, we started, it was 5, 10, maybe 25, 50, then 100. CFI underwrote it when it became 100. I eventually talked the board into 250. I'm pushing for 500.
Wow.
When you start talking about that kind of money, people want to know you pretty well before they're
yes, they do.
Right.
Put that money up. Especially me, because I'm not James Randi. They're like, can we trust this guy? Is he going to end up in Tahiti or something with this money?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the most I could talk them into underwriting at this point.
So it started out at $5,000.
$5,000, all the way up to 50. We had when it was 50, I think we had 3 or 4 individual guarantors, including myself, of money that added up to 50.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome to see the progression of that, and see it's still in effect. I was kind of disappointed when Randy's $1 million challenge went. I understand why, but I was still disappointed. And it's nice to see something else step in.
Yeah, and of course, I learned a ton from Randy over the years, and even that thing I asked, that's stolen directly from Randy. Is there any reason why you can't do this at this point? Is straight from the lips of Randy, and we looked at their legal language and a lot of other stuff. So yeah, we're well indebted to him.
Yeah, great man. I miss him. Have you ever had to let someone on your team go or not ask them back because they were unprofessional? Interesting.
I've never asked anyone to leave the group, but there were a few people who came into the group who were hanging on to some beliefs from their own past that were not being met well by the others, let's say.
Okay.
And so I think they just got to the point where they were uncomfortable with it. And I hate to say it too, because the group is not limited. You don't have to be an atheist to be in this group. I think most of the people are, and occasionally, if we're dealing with a religious type topic, a crying Madonna, or some sort of a miracle claim where the God stuff gets mixed in with the paranormal stuff, believers would probably tend to be a little uncomfortable being in the group, just because of how the stuff is discussed. We look at a miracle claim exactly the same way we would look at a levitator or a psychic or anything else.
Right. Yeah, I agree. All right.
All right, Kenny, you're up.
What? Oh, I'm up. No more questions.
More
wow,
questions?
we caught up with the questions. All right, so cool. One of my questions is, what types of claims can you not test that people have applied for anyway?
Well, there's a few claims that we won't test. One of those is any any claim where a person can be hurt in the process of the test.
Okay.
Now,
wasn't there something?
Yeah.
Oh, tell that story.
There was a woman in Germany who said that she could stop a bullet with her mind. So I thought, I don't know if I want that headline.
I don't think I would do that either.
But so we immediately started thinking about other things, and the nice people in the group were saying, "What about Nerf balls?" I went to paintball myself because I think you should feel the sting of defeat a little bit.
So wait, did it have to be like pointed at her?
Well, she said it could be, yeah. Or I
Okay.
mean, I think she initially said she would stop it from hitting someone else.
I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, that depends. We had some fun trying to come up with ways to do that. But I mean, some people have made some pretty extreme claims, like, they can stop the flow of electricity or, stuff that's really dangerous. So we won't test those types of things.
Okay.
What was the other part of the question?
Like just claims that you can't test. And I think like one of the examples was telepathic, some kind of telepathy where they hear voices or see things and no one else can actually verify.
Yeah, there has to be. A lot of the people say that, they'll just show up and they'll put something in our mind, or we can put something in their mind. And we say, look, we're not part of the test. We don't want to be part of the test. Find the person you've been successful with this and do it that way. But there are categorically some tests that are not possible to test. The classic example is, and his birthday was just a few days ago, Bertrand Russell posited this idea of a teapot floating around, orbiting the sun. Okay. A teapot this big. So there's no way to see that thing in that vastness of space. So someone can say, there is a teapot out there. I can make it stop and change direction at any point. Well, how the hell are we supposed to see that? That may be possible, but it's not something that can be tested under any circumstances. So,
okay,
it sort of depends. So that's what a lot of this. We spent a lot of time with people saying, put a teapot on the building across the street for starters, and we'll go from there.
All right.
One more question.
Go ahead.
Here.
Put it up there. Yeah. Anyone think they are aliens? Oh, they themselves.
Yeah.
I said that would be interesting. Anyone say that they were actually like an alien being?
Yes, probably. And there are also multiple people who said that they could summon the aliens. So yeah, that sort of, I mean, if you claim to actually be an alien, that should be pretty easy to test. That's right up there with the Bigfoot test. Just give us a DNA sample and see if it really doesn't match a black bear out in the woods somewhere.
I've had quite a few people tell me that they were in contact with aliens, that they could record messages and stuff like that. And it's interesting. It's because I'm used to ghost hunters saying that kind of thing. And then it's like, I just recently had somebody contact me and said that they were getting messages, and they're like, it's not from ghosts. Like, every other ghost hunter and stuff like that. These are actually aliens, and they're orbiting the planet right now. And I'm the only one getting messages from them. And I'm thinking, like, all right, let's see how we can test this. Tell me about it. Go ahead.
There was a guy out here who was a podiatrist. I think his name was Lear. And he kept insisting that he kept pulling alien origin objects out of people's feet. Now,
dude, I so thought you were going to say butt.
Yeah, we might have to just not take that one. Um, but the podiatrist, I mean, people step on shit all the time. It's and sometimes, you get a little piece of metal. I do work around my house and I do welding and stuff, and there's all sorts of weird, irregular little shape objects that I don't sweep up completely or something. And if I stepped on it, it would end up in my foot. And sometimes, you could step on it and it could close up, within a day or so. And you might not figure out this thing is in there for quite some time.
Right.
And so, if you go to the podiatrist a year later and he finds this thing and it's got all this fibrous material, your body has reacted to this thing. Mm-hmm. And then he pulls it out, and his claim was that aliens planted this in somebody. But can it just be that you stepped on it and
right?
And then he wouldn't let us look at the stuff. He said there's all this little micro nanotechnology and stuff. Okay, let us take a look at it.
Yeah,
we got microscopes.
Yeah, and nothing. You never get samples.
No, they don't want that type of scrutiny.
I mean, that's what I don't get sometimes, because when you make that such an extraordinary claim, and you're like, oh yeah, it's definitely alien technology. It's this. It's nothing like what we have on this planet. The first question out of every skeptic that I know would be, can I see it?
Yeah.
That's the first question. So if you can't pass that first simple question, don't bother. Stop wasting our time. Seriously.
Yeah. And some of the stuff, the other one that kills me is this is made of a material of non-earthly origin.
Right.
But then you figure, I mean, we've given stuff to, we have physicists that we work with. Some of them have been on the team at various times. And they can stick these things at a mass spectrometer or a gas chromatograph, and they get the signature, and they say, yeah, this is chrome and iron, and there's 6 different elements, all of terrestrial origin.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's possible that there could be substances, minerals made out of stuff that we haven't seen on this planet or can only create in labs, but I don't know. We haven't seen it.
Bob's got a question. Do all of these tests take place in a controlled location inside of a building, or has anyone ever said that they can only perform out in nature and you accommodated that?
I mean, we try to accommodate what people say they can do. So, if they say they need to be in a forest in order to be able to do this thing, we would try to do that. However, we need to control the environment. Mm-hmm. So you can't take us to your house, and not you, Kenny Biddle's house, but you're the applicant's house, and say that a spooky sound is going to come at some point, because there's too much you could do to we need to tear your house apart to make sure you're not up to any funny stuff. So right. If you're doing telepathy or 90% of these things, we want you to come to us, or possibly a neutral location that we feel you would not have access to. So we're just protecting ourselves in the process by doing that. But some people have said that they can, a lot of people say that they can make clouds move. Some have said that they can make it rain, or create earthquakes. Some say they can make an earthquake happen. Some say they can predict an earthquake. Those are 2 different claims. So yeah, I mean, we're willing to go out. There was one guy who said that he could go to this specific place in the mountains outside of Los Angeles and summon an alien craft. And we were like, okay, that sounds like a barbecue in the making or something. We'll go out there.
Yeah. So did you guys go out and summon the craft?
No, something fell through at the end. Like he just decided
okay.
he couldn't do it, and
He couldn't do it. Right.
I mean, a lot of these things, like we've been getting claims with people saying that they can make light move up in the stars, and we ask them the obvious questions: are these winged craft with flashing lights on either side of the wing? That's obvious, and if you're in a spot where you can see stars, you're going to see probably multiple satellites cruising by.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that what you're talking about doesn't have some prosaic explanation to it.
Awesome. Have any Native American shamans applied? I think that's a contradiction. I don't think Native Americans have shamans.
They might have sort of the equivalent of it or something.
The medicine men. Yeah. I think that's a common misconception. Because I've had instances where I've had to research that, and when I've contacted the tribes in our tri-state area, like you don't say shaman. Shaman is completely different, so they actually don't like that. So I don't use that word when I talk to Native Americans.
Well, either way, I mean, shamans from some other religion or philosophy or medicine men or whatever. I mean, we get a fair amount of medical claims, people who can either tell you what your illness is or whatever your problem is, which is kind of tough because, I mean, you look at somebody who looks like me and you're like, you got a knee problem or a back problem. I can look right now. So that's a fuzzy type of thing.
Right.
And other people who say that they can actually heal, which is also very fuzzy, because some of these people have a very calming, assuring way with people. And if you are able to convince someone that they're about to feel better and that their pain is going away even as we speak, there's a fairly decent chance that it actually will if you convince them of that, just by the power of suggestion. So, we're looking for more concrete diagnoses in the first place and real clear-cut black and white that this is cured now and this isn't. Fortunately, we have one guy, Spencer Marks, has been on our team for a long time now, who's got one of his fingers is missing a little bit. So we're like, we got a job for you. If you're a healer, come and put Spencer's finger back to 100%.
Got a question there,
From Bob.
Going back to COVID, has anyone applied that said they could cure COVID?
Yes, good question. We had that. We had some guy he wanted to walk into a COVID ward and cure everybody in the COVID ward.
Ooh.
And I'm like, my friend, we're not letting you into a COVID ward.
I like how you're so subtle about that. Like, no, we're not going to do that.
That ain't going to happen. I mean, I just imagine myself even trying to who do you even ask for? Could I talk to the head of your hospital? I got a guy who says, get the hell out of here.
Get out of here. I mean, I've come across a few people that have claimed like they had cures, like magical cures, and I've worked with Susan Gerbic on one that had that claim, and it's just ridiculous. It's just how do you test that like ethically? How do you I don't think you could. It would be a lot of red tape, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, what the FDA has to go through to test anything is extraordinarily expensive, and it involves people whose life work is medicine, and you have to have control groups, which means somebody's not getting to
treatment.
cure.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's another. I mean, and medicine has worked out the ethical procedures for most of this, and it's not easy, and they have to be very careful. And the procedures are double blind, and it's tough.
So, all right. I mean, we're getting down to the wire here. Can you tell us? Can you walk us through one of the recent tests that you've done? I see for the challenge. For the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, we had a guy pretty recently who, even during COVID, we all had to wear masks during this.
Right.
Came up from San Diego, and it was actually a sort of an odd telepathy type thing where we wrote down, and this is all his idea. I mean, this is how he sort of phrased this, and we took it and made it into a test protocol. But basically, we took 6 different bits of word combinations. Mary had a little lamb who's, whatever, and got, with 1 or 2 words, got to 6. So what happened was, he said he could, if we threw a die, and that's why it was 6. So the die has 6 sides. We throw the die, and it comes up whatever number that corresponds to one of those 2-word couplets or 1 word, just a single word. And so we throw the die, whatever it was, 4 times or whatever, and however order it came, it might have come up. Whose fleece Mary had a lamb, and so however it came up, even if it was nonsensical, that's the order that he would have to read it. So the people upstairs at CFI are rolling the dice and putting these word combinations together, and then we has to write it down in the exact order. So and however it came out, the odds came out to pretty like 4,800 to 1, whatever we told him he had to do.
Okay.
And he made his guess, and he guessed 2 or 3 times, and he had to get 3 out of 5, and he didn't even get 1. So they came down, they showed him what they rolled and what he rolled, and we compared notes and everything. And then we just had a little talk with him afterward. And I said, I gave him that same rap. I said, sometimes, if you're hearing words or phrases or something in your mind that sound like they're coming from this other source, that is consistent with a known problem that your brain might be having. I'm not telling you your brain has this problem, but it could be, and you should keep your mind open to the possibility that it may not be working at 100% level.
Right.
And the guy was actually, he actually kind of sat there and was very calm and said, okay, I obviously couldn't show you. And, I'm going to think about what you were telling me about whether, this might have some other cause. And we had a piece of pizza, and he went home. And,
I love pizza.
That's nice. That's cool.
Pizza's a part of every test.
Yes.
That's awesome. John Kennedy. Oh, that's funny. So I can pretty much guarantee no on this question. I'll be there. Phenomenology is a paranormal conference out here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'll be there. I'll be there. Donna will be there, but I'll be there with my skeptical help booth. So I will be the little skeptical goldfish among a pond of piranha, paranormal piranha. Oh, that's good. I like that.
There you go.
So I'll be there representing the skepticism and
community.
community.
You have my blessing to represent.
Awesome.
But we've been to these things before. We have been to like New Age fairs, sometimes with an actual booth One
Yeah.
of them, this probably wasn't very, let's see, what did we do? We had I had a degauser. Oh, that's what it was. We had an e-meter.
Okay.
So we brought an e-meter. So an e-meter is just it's an EMF meter. It measures some levels of magnetic fields. So underneath the table at our booth, we had this degaussing ring that they used to use on TV screens, old cathode ray TV screens. So this is essentially just a circle with a bunch of wires in it, and they send a current through it, and it radiates a fairly significant current. But when you flip it on, it makes the e-meter go crazy. So we had people coming up to the booth, and we would say, focus your mind on this or that. And then we'd flip the degaussing coil on, and the e-meter would jump, or not the EMF meter, the ghost meter would jump, and they thought they did it. And so, and then we'd have to pull out the degaussing thing and then flip it on in front of them and show them that that's what was causing
What was
it.
going on? Okay. That's cool.
But we actually do have a Scientology e-meter as well, an old store-bought Scientology e-meter where it's just the two cans and you hold on to these two cans.
Right.
And depending on how hard you squeeze it or how sweaty your hand's on, that has everything to do with the amount of current going through your entire body from one can to the other.
We played with one of those. We went to DC for 1 year, and we went to the L. Ron Hubbard museum or house or whatever, and they had several of those, and I played with it. But they wouldn't let me inspect it. Like I was like, oh, can I look closer? Can I turn it upside down? And I started to turn it over, and like, no, put it down. So
yeah, they're charging like I want to say $3,000 or $4,000 for one of those things now.
Wow.
Yeah, they're expensive.
It's called a whetstone bridge. It just measures conductivity.
Right, between the handles. So we are getting down to the wire. I don't want to keep you too long because I know you have a poker night tonight. So
yeah, huge stakes, nickel ante poker coming up.
And, that's nice. John Kennedy, before you go, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this discussion. Keep up your amazing work. This is one of
I was a big fan of John's presidency as well.
I've known Jim for a couple of years now. We actually did a presentation together at the last SciCon that they held. And it's just been, I love working back and forth with you guys and just promoting this challenge because this is awesome. I mean, to be able to put this out there and when people present to me this like supernatural ability, I love being able to say, well, hey, there is a challenge out there. You could win a lot of money. And if you don't want the money, you can help somebody else. You can definitely help a charity or something like that. So here's the link. Please apply. Put my name on there. So I get some extra cash. We all win if you win. So
exactly.
It's becoming TikTok famous now.
Yeah. So
put up or shut up. I mean, that's part of the reason for having this. And it's for putting the reference fee, the finder's fee helps the friends and family of the talented individuals put the heat on those people to show their goods under test conditions.
Right. And I mean, it's perfect. It's the way it should be. I mean, if you say you can do something that's extraordinary, then test it. Just do it. And it's not just saying, it's not a matter of I don't have to prove anything, because I get that excuse a lot. I'm sure you do. Or I don't have to prove it to you. You can win a fuckload of money. and you can really impact someone else's life. Or other kids' lives, like, I mean, you mentioned earlier about like cancer for kids or something like that. I mean, you can donate it to them and really make a difference. So put up or shut up. You know,
Yeah.
here's your chance.
I actually had a conversation with someone who said, I don't need the money. I got plenty of money. And I said, you don't know anybody who could use this money? No, I don't know anybody who knows it. Can you conceive of somebody who might need this money?
Right.
$250,000. Can you conceive of somebody walking the face of this earth who could use, or a group of people who could use $250,000? No, I can't. Okay. All right. I'm dealing with a no. That's the end of the conversation.
That's sad.
And by the way, and one great quote too that I got from the late Jerry Andrus, who was an inventor of magic tricks. He's in the Magicians Hall of Fame. All big magicians know who Jerry Andrus was. This guy from up in Oregon. He said to me once, he said, if I could levitate, I would show anyone who wanted to see it any time of day, day or night, 7 days a week. There would never, it has to be here or there. I would just do it and do it and do it. It would be the coolest thing to be able to walk down the street anytime and do. So why not?
Why not? Yeah, exactly. Why not? You know, this has been awesome. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate you coming on and talking about this stuff, giving us details, giving us the background stories, and telling us what you've tested, what you haven't tested, and why. But this has been a great conversation, and I think a lot of people have benefited from this tonight. So thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on. And you know I'm a big fan of your work, and we lean on you every now and then too. So
anytime, man. I mean, you know, I mean, you have my number. Just call whenever you need help.
I will.
Out on this side of the country, because I am so up for that. I love it, and I mean, I don't shy away from it too. I love digging into it, and especially when people put out like information like, you know, check up on me. Go ahead, check up on me.
Oh my God.
Damn right, I'm going to check up on you.
You just said the wrong 3 words.
Oh yeah, no, I knew that would be a problem for that individual.
That's a story from another time.
Another time, yeah. But I sleep a little better knowing you're taking care of the great unwashed East.
Awesome. All right, I am going to temporarily put you in the background, and then go through my quick announcements, and then I'm going to end the show, and then I'll hit you back up. Don't go anywhere yet. Okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Cool.
Thanks, Jim.
So, all right, everyone, let me change my my thing here, get Bob's announcements up here. So, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. It was a great conversation. I love talking to Jim. We always, I love the stories. I love hearing about the tests and the details behind it and behind the scenes stuff. So, for announcements, not too much coming up, but June 3rd to 5th, which is in 2 weeks now. 2 weeks. Phenomenology in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It's a paranormal conference. I will be there set up with my skeptical help booth, the physical one. I'll have some testing equipment for like dowsing rods. This thing will be set up. I have one for Ouija boards. I have one for pendulums. So I'll be testing people and giving out my daily dose of skepticism. So, and I'll also be collecting donations for the Cancer Research Institute. So if you want to come down and sit down, talk, ask a question, if you want to yell at me because you just don't like skeptics, that's fine, as long as you make a donation. That's all I ask. And then coming up after that, I have August 20th to 22nd is the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, which is another paranormal conference that they allow me to set up with. I love it. I love when paranormal conferences let me set up a skeptics booth. But I'll be doing the same thing there. And I'll also be in the dunk tank. They have a dunk tank to raise money for Pennsylvania Wounded Warriors and kids with cancer. So, producer Donna on screen. So I'll be on the dunk tank. So make sure you come out, you bring out your money and donate, and then you can possibly dunk me. And I will harass the shit out of you because apparently I have free reins to say whatever I want.
That's what the dunk tank's all about.
That's right. And then lastly, September 25th is Para Unity Conference, another conference, a paranormal conference in Woodbridge, New Jersey. I'll be roaming around there. Donna has a booth there. She will be selling her crafts. She's also going to be at the other two conferences, but she's going to be at the Para-Unity thing, and I'll be just roaming around doing what I do best, which is usually annoying ghost hunters and having fun doing it.
Selma Mansion in October.
Oh, Selma Mansion in October.
I think it's the 9th.
October 9th, I think. Yeah, the Psychic Fair. I'll be set up.
No,
she'll be set up. I might be set up because I have fun setting up a skeptic booth at a psychic fair. That's always fun. All right. So with that said, thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you for hanging out for a Friday night. I appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Have fun. Enjoy life. And never stop learning. And I'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.